So did you get over there after that had happened?
I got over there just in time to talk to a real good friend of mine who kind of gave me his data dump of what happened. And then I said, hey, I'll see you tomorrow. I never saw him again. He was killed that night. Some real PTSD out of that.
How do you deal with loss?
I've never gotten over that. It really made the organization take a hard look at what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong.
Did you get over there after that had happened?
Yeah, we went over after that to reinforce.
Shit, man.
Yeah, we went over after to reinforce. We got there 2-3 days later. It wasn't long. When October 3rd went down, we got spun up and went over, I mean, quick. And we were there it was just a few days later. Yeah, we rolled in to reinforce, got a debrief on what happened, on the 3rd, the whole 9 yards. We were there actually for, the ceremony of the guys who were killed.
Did you know those men?
Yeah, I knew all the unit guys. Knew them all. Didn't know the Rangers or the Task Force 160 guys. Didn't know them. But I knew all the unit guys. Absolutely. 100%.
How was that?
It was pretty spooky. Yeah, it was pretty somber. It was real somber, actually. Yeah. It was real somber. Because it was a pretty horrific event.
Yeah.
And I know you talk to Tom and whatnot, there's layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of stories that go along with that mission. In terms of heroism that probably should have got the Medal of Honor. Guys who honestly should have performed better, not really in the unit, but in the Ranger side. You may have heard some of that. I don't know. There's a lot of nuances to what happened that day. A lot of nuances. What's happened over time is some of that's been forgotten. But when I was there, it was all fresh. And I got it from the guys who were on the ground. And they gave me a lot of information of stuff that went right and went wrong. A lot of lessons learned. Found out that they were basically running those helos they were running them as if they were doing them in low light at night. But instead of looking at it from, hey, wait a minute, we're up here in daylight. They can easily see where we're at and what we're doing. We need to change our tactics in terms of the helo operations to better reflect what's happening during the day. But they were doing it like as if it was at night.
Damn.
There was a lot of lessons learned out of that. It was I wouldn't say pretty, it was a very horrific event.
Yeah. I did a very extensive interview with Tom Satterley, who's a really good friend of mine now. And his account was just...
Yep.
I mean, just fucking insane.
Yeah. I mean, you know the deal. I mean, you talked to Tom at length about it. I mean, it was horrific. And it's hard to really grasp the magnitude or the level of what actually happened at that time and the impact it had on not only the unit, but the Ranger Battalion. I mean, it was really kind of hard at this point, because we're so far down the road now, we're decades now down the road. During that time, it was, it really made the organization, I'm assuming the same with the Rangers, but certainly Delta really had to take a hard look in the mirror at what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. Stuff as simple as, why are we wearing Protec helmets? Why are we not wearing, Kevlar helmets? Why are we not wearing helmets that are protected? There was a guy in C Squadron was killed off a ricochet. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I didn't.
Yeah, he was killed off a ricochet off the wall. They're moving down the street, and sure enough, he got killed and went right through his Protec. If he'd have been wearing, a Kevlar helmet or something protective, probably would have saved his life.
Damn.
Running around with black body armor. What's that all about? You're in desert fatigues with black body armor on. So the unit had to take a real hard look in the mirror, and there was some real serious lessons learned out of that. Some real PTSD out of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, some major PTSD. Yeah, that was a horrific event. Very horrific. And then I told you I got over there just in time to talk to a real good friend of mine who kind of gave me his data dump of what happened. And then I said, hey, I'll see you tomorrow. I never saw him again. He was killed that night.
How was it killed?
That mortar round landed right behind him. He was outside the hangar, and I remember hearing him, boom, because we were in a separate hangar, very close, but, separate, A squadron. And then C squadron and the Rangers were still in this primary hangar where they'd been. And he was outside talking to guys, and a mortar round just landed right behind him. And they'd been launching mortar rounds throughout the time they were there, but they'd always landed down by the beach, way over them. They'd never really be able to vector it in where they'd hit in and around the hangars till that night. And a round landed right behind him. And like all the guys, as far as I know, all the guys he was talking to all got, seriously injured. Like seriously injured. But they all survived. And he was killed immediately.
And this was a good friend of yours.
Oh, yeah, really good friend of mine. Really good friend of mine.
Is that the first friend you lost?
No. 6 months prior to that, our mutual friend, we used to shoot competition together, pistol competition. Me, him, and another guy. Our mutual friend, 6 months prior, got killed in a parachute accident.
Damn.
And then 6 months later, fast forward, and my other buddy's killed. And I've never gotten over that.
How do you deal with loss?
Just, internalize it,
compartmentalize it.
And sometimes it just really comes to the surface. You just saw a few minutes ago in the Medela prison talk.
Yeah.
It's just hard to keep it suppressed. But yeah, I'll never forget that year, 1993. I'll never forget it. Lost two of my good friends in a matter of six month span. Never forget it. And I wish I'd have been there on October 3rd to help those guys out. There's no doubt we'd have made a difference with C Squadron. No doubt. Because here's what happened. We got over there and we said there was a lesson learned having the Rangers out on the outer perimeter on the roadblocks. And I don't want to rain on the Rangers too much. That's a time for somebody else to talk. Somebody else for you to interview. But as soon as we landed, C Squadron's like, okay, Rangers, you guys are out. A Squadron's going to be on the outer perimeter. What you guys were doing in terms of security now, A Squadron's doing it. That, like, as soon as we hit the ground, that was decided. And then, because at that point, it was all about getting Mike Durant, who was being held, hostage by the Somalis. It was all about getting him. And we were, dude, you want to talk about ready to hammer people. We would fly over at night and we were begging for somebody to shoot at us because we'd have come down on them like the pouring rain.
I can imagine.
Oh man, dude, you want to talk about out for blood? And I've heard scuttlebutt. It was the ambassador or the assistant ambassador or whatever went and talked to Adid's people about Mike Durant, and they ended up giving him up. As you know, they let him go. But I think he told him, he said, you think October 3rd was bad? Because the Somalis got hammered. I mean, they lost a lot of people. C Squadron and the Rangers and Task Force 160, they went through them. I mean, they hammered them big time. I've heard 45-1 kill ratio.
Wow.
That's what I've heard. For every 45 to 1. That's what I heard. Because it's interesting, sad, but interesting. Delta, including my buddy who was killed, including him, Delta lost 6 operators Rangers lost 6. Rangers. Task Force 160 lost 6 guys. 6 and 6 were killed
Jeez.
over there. But I want to say it was either the ambassador or the assistant ambassador was negotiating with the deeds people and said, you need to give him up because the next time they come in here, it's going to make October 3rd look like a walk in the park. Because it would have been, it would have been brutal.
Yeah.
Because we were out for blood. And sure enough, they gave him up. I remember seeing him carry him one to the bird. I remember that. We were lined up and they had carry him on a stretcher onto the bird for him to get exfilled back to the States.
Where did you go after Somalia?
Back home, I'm trying to remember what I did. I went over and did a stint as an OTC instructor, and I think it wasn't that long after. Pretty sure, well, I take that back now. Bosnia. Yeah, Bosnia, that's where I went.
What were you guys doing over there?
VIP protection. Commander of S4. Commander of S4, who was Shinseki. I don't know if you knew who that is or not. General Shinseki. Vietnam vet, kind of an Asian guy, lost part of his foot from a mine in Vietnam. We liked him. We got along with the guy great. We really liked working for him. He was a really, really good guy to work for.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.